Most of us understand that we are headed for another civil war, given the present direction of the banker/government cartel. I don't think it will start soon, and I haven't bought any guns or stored up any food, and I have no getaway plan. If you've done these things, you may be prepared to stave off the inevitable for a little while, but in the end you're toast if the bad guys totally take over. What's needed is not running away and hiding out till it's over, but rather organizing the obvious counterattack. That is, what are your physical plans? How do you intend to restore your freedom if you employ only safe, acceptable political means, and that tactic fails? All civilizations have collapsed, except those extant. There is no reason to believe that these current civilizations are immune to history. Every one of those lost civilizations thought theirs would be the one to last till the end of time, yet they all went the way of the dodo. There are three mechanisms of collapse. These are collapse by natural means, as in drought, tsunami, earthquake, etc. Collapse by way of external assault, as in war, and collapse by internal decay, a kind of aging process. Clearly, we are not presently worried about nature. Global warming wouldn't kill us off, even if it were real. Maybe the New Madras Fault would give us a big problem if it let loose, or if Cumbre Vieja collapsed, but we'd survive them. The second mechanism is not possible, since the invention and deployment of the hydrogen bomb, although many believe that Muslims, armed with sticks with nails on the end, could destroy us. But that's dubious. This leaves a third mechanism, and this one is inevitable. Any civilization left to itself, and under no external duress from another civilization or from nature, and without an expanding empire to fuel a lengthier fall, will collapse in a period of 2 to 4 centuries. This is as certain as aging in an individual. All civilizations are mortal, including ours. Here is the mechanism. We can graph the population on the y-axis and their incomes on the x-axis. In the beginning, everybody starts out roughly equal. They have almost nothing in the way of income. Production is low. But because there are no rich, there is no army to prevent individuals from being productive. So they are. Freedom and productivity go hand in hand, and this leads to the development of a Maxwellian-type distribution, wherein those at the origin are poor and few in number. Those in the middle are generally prosperous and high in number, the middle class, and at the far right end, the rich, who are also few in number. This is the healthy, developed civilization noted by Aristotle and others as being the best, the one with the big middle class. Note here that as this Maxwellian distribution is developing, the rich, the ones on the right, are increasing their income over time. That is, the rate of increase of their income is greater than the rate of increase of any other group, and so they are content. When the normal distribution is fully developed, there is no more increase in income. Everybody's rate has ceased to increase. Their civilization is stable and constant over time. Primary economic growth has ceased. The civilization is a full-grown adult. This does not sit well with the elite, who believe that their income should always increase, as it has done in the past. Now the only way to increase income is to take it from the middle class, and so they do. Because they are in control of civilization by dint of wealth, they determine its laws and rules of conduct, so they skew the laws in their own favor. More wealth flows to them from the middle class, and the elites experience another round of income increase as befits their high standing. Remember, each individual has an exalted opinion of his own worth, and they have the power to do something about it. So they do. As the wealthy take over and destroy the middle class produces less, After all, they won't be keeping it, so why produce it in the first place? Therefore, the area under the curve, the gross national product, falls. The rich get richer, but only at the expense of living in a declining civilization. As the divide grows wider, the former middle class joins the poor and becomes discontent. Now, because the rich are few in number, they must have an army to control the hordes of poor peasants, and that army must be drawn from the poor, because the rich have not enough people, and they don't dirty their hands with such toil. And because the poor have nothing extra for the rich to steal, the army begins to look around for its own sustenance, and the only place to steal it from is the rich. Inevitably, some general in the oppression army casts a jaundiced eye on the elites, whom he sees as weak parasites he can do without. Because he knows the peasants will support him, he attacks and destroys the elite and installs himself as the new potentate. But he must redistribute wealth to maintain his standing with his army and with the peasants. So we return to the initial state of generally uniform poverty and a new freedom to act. The cycle starts anew. America is now over the hill, and the middle class is disappearing, as usual. The decline will continue until an oppression army is formed to get blood out of a turnip. You are the turnip. And remember, this has never been prevented before, so don't count on it happening now. We're going down, and we're going to have to fight our way back. The issue isn't whether such things will occur, but rather how long the stages take. Clearly, we want the fighting stage to be as short as possible, with the least possible destruction. What we must do is what has historically been done before. We have to turn the oppression army against the elites, who now control them. I don't mean the TSA thugs, just the regular army, the ones who are drawn from the people in general. If they side with the people, we win. If they don't, we lose. At least for perhaps a much longer time than is necessary. Here's the general plan. First, form local militias and coordinate them on a larger scale. Break the local police force into two opposing camps, one favoring the people and the other favoring government oppression. Establish temporal and physical rallying points. Break the army in the fashion of the local police, and arrest and imprison, but not kill, the banker government traitors. You can't win a war by running away with your weapon and hiding till it's over. It won't be over unless you personally put an end to it. And you can't win as an individual. Without organization, the army will eat you for breakfast. In a war with the people, the only weapon a general fears is a deer rifle with a scope on it in the hands of a battalion-strength sniper cascade. In the context of urban warfare, a few hundred men with high-powered rifles and the ability to use them with precision can harry and bog down an entire armored division. If there are 20 million men-at-arms nationwide willing to commit to combat, there are 20,000 battalions nationwide to harry and bog down the regular army. They haven't got 20,000 divisions. They've got about 200. Our army, if it was willing, could contend for about 200 medium-sized cities in America. The long and the short of it is this. If just 20 million American men stand up to the government with rifle in hand, the army will break, and the half that favors the people will easily rout the other half, and the whole thing will collapse like a house of cards in a single day. The people who are oppressing you are about as dangerous as a few cockroaches in your kitchen. They have no power over you if you simply say no and get your gun. You don't even have to fire it. The willingness to fire is all you really need. Here again, the police have no chance against a locally organized militia. Let's say you live in a town of 100,000 people. There's 1,000 police. Your militia is 1,000 men. What can the police do to you militarily? Nothing. They're stuck because no police force can exist without the consent of the governed. They're in patrol cars. If the militia says no police cars, they have to obey. If they don't, you just shoot the tires out when they come out. You don't even have to wound anybody. In fact, you can say, "Have a nice day," as they walk away from the car and go home. Then you torch the car and it's over. The SWAT team is useless. They can't come out if the militia forbids it. If they have an armored vehicle, all the militia has to do is rig a hydraulic vehicle flipper and lure the SWAT team. When the tank is over the trap, you flip the switch and the tank flips over and the SWAT team crawls out and goes home. Then you torch the tank and nobody gets hurt. No police can function if the people are against it. It doesn't work that way. For the police to be effective in any community, they have to have the support of that community. If the militia opposes the police, the only thing that can happen is that the police ranks will split. Those in favor of the people will stay, and those in favor of government oppression will get kicked out of the department. When the people show sand, the government melts. When the people show yellow, the government eats them. Why would people tolerate an oppressive government when they outnumber them by at least 1,000 to 1? The reason people don't readily oppose government oppression is that they are not organized. They don't realize their absolute power over government, either physically or philosophically. They don't see any unity of action proposed because the government owns the television and media, so government uses this tool to keep them separate to facilitate their continued control. Occasionally there is a physical rallying point where the people can observe their power firsthand, as at a speech in a stadium. But there is no nationwide rallying point for everyone. Physical rallying points on a wide scale occasion logistical problems that preclude employing them. You can't say, "Let's all go to New York to protest on September 11th. If 20 million people showed up, it would be a nightmare, and the army could conveniently mow them down with machine guns or the like. A temporal rallying point is much more practical on the large scale. You don't go anywhere, you do something at such and such a time, nationwide. A good but not too effective example would be a strike. Or what if there was an ongoing gun day? On gun day, you'd take your weapon and fire off a few rounds between sundown and midnight. If the 20 million did this nationwide, everyone, including the police and the army, would hear it and know what it meant. You'd be reporting to your neighbor that you are pissed off at the government. And if gun day was, say, the second Wednesday of every even-numbered month, there'd be 6 gun days per year, and thus 6 opportunities to say no to government that could get louder and louder from month to month with every new government shenanigan. At present there is no support for such a gun day, but that day may come, and it's better to shoot in the air into the dirt than into someone else's body. The New World Order war could be over with no fatalities at all, and little in the way of inconvenience. You see why they want to take your guns away, don't you? Just the thought of 20 million or more guns makes them involuntarily dump. Those in the army come from the people. They will fire on the American people if and only if the people show no resistance. If they put up a fight, half of the army will oppose the other half, knowing that the people will have their backs. If you cower in a hole somewhere, they'll figure, if I don't shoot 'em, I'll be shot in the back by Homeland Security for cowardice. If you show yellow, they will too, and all is lost. Inevitably, in the long run, if no one opposes them, the army will support the thugs, and we will go into some dark age of indeterminate length. The army is controlled by a hierarchy. If you stand up to the army and break it, The hierarchy will also break right up to the top, and those at the top will take off for parts unknown, vacating their leadership positions. If a hierarchy flips, it flips from the bottom up, and it goes real fast. Like overnight they're gone. It's a chain reaction. It's bad karma to kill people, wherever possible. People who are captured and cannot be imprisoned because the war is not over should be released unharmed and naked. That is, if you surround your local SWAT team and they have no way out, let them know that they can leave the area, provided that they do so naked. They strip and walk home in their birthday suit. No underwear, nothing. Yes, they will fight you again, but with less vigor, and those fighting with them will have no respect for the strippers. Keep their weapons and burn the uniforms. When fighting a pitched battle, aim to wound rather than kill. A wounded man is a burden and must be carried to the rear. If they abandon their wounded, it destroys morale, and they will have precious little of that to begin with. The object is to win the battle by correcting the behavior of the enemy, with the realization that despite any death toll, this is still teenage behavior. Be the adult and offer only firm guidance, albeit with bullets, but not hollow point. Lastly, the ringleaders are to be rounded up and imprisoned. They are not to be killed, whether they deserve it or not. Killing them only resets the cycle. By understanding what's going on, it may be possible to stop this cycling problem and establish a permanent governmental solution. Maybe. The problems we have are moral and philosophical, not physical. If good men represent the people, just about any form of government can be made tolerable. If bad men rule, no form of government will work. That's basically all there is to it. Your government can be no better than you. Fix yourself, and the government will follow.